Am I the a-hole for asking my mother-in-law for advice on how she dealt with her husband's affair after she said I needed to work on my marriage when her son cheated on me? That's really about it. The title says everything, but the details matter. I am currently married to Matthew. He had an affair, and once I found out, I filed for divorce. There wasn't a dramatic confrontation at first or a long back and forth, just the realization that the marriage was broken beyond repair. Not long after that, his mother came to me. She told me I needed to work on my marriage and that I shouldn't give up so easily. Instead of arguing, I asked her a simple question. I asked how she dealt with her own husband's infidelity during their marriage. She immediately started stammering and asked what I was talking about, as if the idea were completely foreign. So I explained. 5 years ago, her husband had an affair. If she truly expected me to work through Matthew's cheating, then I needed advice from someone who had been through it herself. I asked her directly how she handled her husband's affair. I also told her that Matthew had asked me not to talk about it, and that I had respected that request by keeping my mouth shut. The moment I said this, she stood up and left without another word. From what I later heard, the fallout was immediate and explosive. She confronted her husband, who denied everything. Matthew also denied knowing about the affair at all, much less that he had asked me to pretend nothing happened. My mother-in-law is now furious, not only at her husband for cheating, but also at Matthew for keeping her completely in the dark. For the record, my goal was never revenge. I wanted her to leave me alone, and for once, actually consider my point of view. I made up the affair story in the moment because I was tired of being pressured to forgive something she herself had never had to openly face. Edit to add, the truth is far worse. I only found out about Matthew's affair because he gave me chlamydia. During the fights that followed, I learned there had been more than one affair. It also came out that my father-in-law actively helped him cheat. He told my mother-in-law that he was golfing with Matthew on Saturdays and that they were taking overnight fishing trips together. Those lies were cover stories, and he knowingly provided them, so Matthew could be absent from home without suspicion. Lastly, for context, my mother-in-law owns the house we lived in and charged us cheap rent. That's why she was able to walk into my home while I was packing my things to leave, and why I didn't immediately tell her to get out. That's the full picture. Now for the top comments. Wait, you made up the affair? So her husband never cheated? That you know. If so, you're absolutely the a-hole. How dare you interfere in someone else's marriage? You could have caused irreparable damage. I was all for you doing that, until I saw you made the whole thing up. She was interfering in mine, without the proper frame of reference. Now that she knows what it feels like, maybe she will better understand why I am not staying in that marriage. OP, I'm a little confused. Did father-in-law cheat on mother-in-law? If father-in-law cheated, you are not the a-hole. Mother-in-law shouldn't have raised a cheater, and instead should have taught her son to take accountability for his actions. She honestly should be apologizing for raising a steaming POS. But if father-in-law didn't cheat and you made it up, then you're the a-hole. You could have literally said to mother-in-law that rather than blaming you and telling you to work harder on your marriage, her son should have done the same, instead of sticking his dick in someone else, then walked away. You didn't have to ruin another marriage in the process. I made the affair up to force her to see what she was asking me to do. So your husband didn't say his father cheated on his mom? You created a grenade and chucked it right into someone else's marriage? I did. She couldn't understand how her son made me feel. I wanted her to know, before she kept pushing for reconciliation. Okay, at first I thought, not the a-hole. Then I read that you made it up and thought you're the a-hole. Then I read that the father-in-law helped cover up your husband's affair. Not the a-hole. That family is toxic. Everyone sucks here. Here are the reasons, in order from least bad to worst. 1. OP for lying to her mother-in-law about her father-in-law having an affair. 2. Mother-in-law for telling her daughter-in-law to stay in the marriage and not talking to her own son about what he did to kill the marriage. 3. Father-in-law for helping his son cover up the affair. 4. Husband for cheating, and everything that followed. Next story. Am I the a-hole for congratulating my family on losing me and keeping my cheating ex-girlfriend? I, 23 male, dated Hannah, 23 female, for 7 years. I loved her, and we lived together for 3.5 years when I found out she was cheating on me. It wasn't one time or one person either. She had been cheating for years, and there were 3 guys that I know about. One of them got her pregnant and then dumped her, which is the only reason I found out she was cheating. Why did she cheat? She didn't want to be with me anymore, but she didn't want to lose my family because they treated her better than her own family treated her. Even before we started dating, she loved my family. And now I question whether she dated me just to have my family in her life. I ended things with Hannah as soon as I found out about the other guys, and she admitted to cheating for several years with 3 different men. Whether that's the whole truth, I'll never know. At first I thought my family would be on my side, cut her off, and be there for me. But after 6 weeks, I discovered that my mom and my sister were talking to Hannah every day and checking on her. Then Hannah was invited back to my parents' house for dinner. And my sister and she kept up the girls' days they used to have when Hannah and I were together. I talked to my family about it, and they told me they couldn't let Hannah go because she had been part of our family for so long. We argued about it, and I told them I was hurt that they would stand by her. They asked me to consider how alone she was and how much they loved her. They insisted on including her in the family. I told them they couldn't have both of us, stopped showing up to family functions and dinners, and refused to hang out. Part of me hoped it would make them apologize and kick her to the curb, but it didn't. So I made the choice to disown my family, and I blocked them on social media and on my phone. Before I took that step, I went to get some of my belongings from my parents' house. I told them and 2 of my siblings what I was going to do, and they accused me of overreacting and throwing a toddler's tantrum. Then they said I was worse than a toddler because I wanted to hurt them. I told them it wasn't about hurting them, but about their lack of consideration for me as their brother and son. I followed that by congratulating them on losing me and keeping Hannah, and I made a comment about how they cared more about that than about me. They kept saying I was unfair, that I was behaving like a little boy instead of a grown man, and that I should use conflict resolution instead of petulant behavior. I ignored it all and blocked them, as I said above. There were more messages in between where they made it very clear that they were unhappy and felt I was being a brat. I don't know if congratulating them and commenting that they cared more about Hannah than me was childish and petulant, or if I was justified in saying it. I want to believe I'm not an a-hole, but maybe I am. And maybe I'm acting immaturely in reaction to them keeping Hannah in the family. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, my whole family is choosing Hannah. I want to make it clear that it isn't just my mom and sister that I mentioned specifically, but my entire family, my dad, brothers, and my other sisters. I think they don't believe you'll take your promise to no longer contact them seriously. That's why they're reacting this way and thinking it's just you being dramatic. They can learn the hard way then. There's no coming back from this. And whenever you have milestones, getting married, having kids, buying a new house, they'll find out and reach out and ask why you never said anything. Just ask how the ex is doing. They won't be able to get in touch with me to ask those questions. If they have them, they can sit and reflect, or maybe look around the happy family dinner table, see Hannah, and know why they're no longer a part of my life. If she stays around, Hannah may ditch them at some point. She could, but I feel like she's too into having a family who'll apparently stand by her no matter what. She will trade them in for her next partner's family the minute they like her. Then your family won't have Hannah or you anymore. I have 3 boys, and I would never prioritize a cheating ex over any of them. I hope you find a new chosen family to support you, not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for buying a house and moving my family out of my mother-in-law's house? Background. My wife, 36 female, has 3 siblings. First brother, 35 male, sister 28 female, and second brother, 22 male. Before COVID, my father-in-law passed away, and my mother-in-law was devastated by it. At the time, sister and second brother were still living at home, and second brother was still in high school. I convinced my wife to move us and our daughters in with my mother-in-law to help her take care of things, bills, house upkeep, etc. Mother-in-law loved the idea and said that $2,000 a month would cover all our expenses. Phone plan, car insurance. We combined both families onto one, utilities and food. She also said that we would be considered co-owners of the house, with equal access to all spaces and equal say in all decisions. We agreed and moved in during 2020. In 2021, first brother went through an ugly divorce and moved back into the house with all of us. Around this time, he also lost his job, so we were asked to bump up our contribution to $2,100 to cover the extra person. We did, without complaint. The layout of the house is important to the next part. The bathroom and shower that my family, myself, my wife, and our 2 daughters used were part of our bedroom suite. There was also a hallway full bathroom on the same floor, used by her sister and second brother. My wife and I cleaned our bathroom twice a week. Sister and second brother cleaned theirs once a month, if you get the picture. When first brother moved home, he asked to use our bathroom because the other one was disgusting. We said yes, because he was having a rough time and we wanted to help as much as possible. In 2022, citing rising costs, mother-in-law had us start paying $2,300 a month, while also having me drive her to work and pick up second brother from school every day in my car. My wife and I have 2 cars, mine and hers, and this is important. In 2023, second brother totaled his car, and mother-in-law asked if he could use my car. At the time, we said okay, because my wife and I worked close enough to carpool in hers. Mind you, we were still making payments on mine. Second brother made payments to us for the car for 6 months, before he also lost his job and decided to stay unemployed while attending school online. Mother-in-law set up a credit card for him for gas money, which she pays. Her sister is also unemployed and has never had a job. In early 2024, my wife asked her sister to clean up part of the kitchen table that sister had been using for hobby projects financed by mother-in-law. Mother-in-law said that sister was entitled to that space and needed it to work on her things. By this point, my wife and I had bought a mini fridge and microwave for our suite because we never had access to the kitchen for cooking or food. Our contribution was also increased to $2,500 a month. We asked for a breakdown of finances because we were unsure where our money was going. It's important to note that around this time we learned that father-in-law's life insurance had paid off the mortgage on the house and his car, which second brother wrecked. Mother-in-law had bought her own car prior to this and told us she was making payments on it to try to stay ahead of everything, though we didn't ask what that meant. In 2024, first brother got a girlfriend, Gina, who moved in with us along with her son. They all continued using our bathroom, citing the other bathroom as too dirty. They helped clean ours maybe once every 2 months. In 2025, my wife and I managed to work at the same place, and we were asked to increase our contribution to $3,000 a month. We asked why and requested financial records, but we were given the runaround every time. During this period, I paid off my car and gifted it to second brother, trying to avoid an argument over money. In mid-2025, I helped first brother with something outside the house and casually asked what he and Gina were contributing financially. He said about $500 every month or so. Curious, I dug further, and he told me that mother-in-law had been making double payments on all her credit cards and car loans for years. I confronted mother-in-law, and she said, "It's my house. I'm just allowing you to live here." At that point, my wife and I had an honest conversation about whether we could continue living there. My wife had been written into mother-in-law's will for co-ownership of the house with her sister, since sister has never had a job or even a driver's license, and mother-in-law wanted to make sure she always had somewhere to live. In late summer 2025, my wife and I got a unique opportunity to buy a house with a perfect layout, 5 minutes from our work and in a great school district. We started the process and told the family. Mother-in-law yelled at us, calling us liars and promise breakers, accusing us of refusing to do what we promised. She said we were abandoning the family, abandoning our responsibilities, and proving ourselves to be untrustworthy. We continued moving forward in the process, got the keys to the house, and moved over Thanksgiving. Only my wife's cousin, who lives 4 hours away, came to help us. The rest of the family mostly ignored us. On the last day of moving, there was a huge snowstorm, and I was at my mother-in-law's house loading the truck alone. My wife, daughters, and cousin were at the new house unpacking boxes and trying to get things set up. First brother and second brother came outside and made snowmen while I was loading the truck, and when I asked for help, they both claimed they were busy. Mother-in-law saw me once and complained that I'd gotten the floor wet from snow. I left, and nobody said goodbye. For the record, I picked up the moving truck at 11 a.m. and returned it at 11:58 p.m. During this time, my wife and I fully separated our finances, phone and car insurance, before we moved into our house. In the first week of December, mother-in-law contacted us and said that we owed her $1,000 a month for the next year to cover our living expenses and the sudden move. We said no, we don't live there anymore, and she responded, "When you fail, you can't come back." After that, she only texted my wife in group chats with my wife's aunts and grandmother, but never directly. We haven't seen her since, even though we had planned activities together that she later had to abandon due to no longer being able to afford it. My wife is devastated because she had a good relationship with her mom up until this point, and now feels like she was just being used for money. For the record, everything we pay now, combined, comes out to less than $3,000 a month. So, am I the a-hole for moving my family out? Not the a-hole, but you both need to get a backbone. No disagreement here. Part of the reason we did this is that we realized how much we were being taken advantage of and got fed up with it. Your wife did not have a good relationship with her mother prior to the move. She had a transactional relationship where your family got fleeced. Not the a-hole, and good on you as parents for taking care of your family. Enjoy your life. Not the a-hole for buying a house, but you are an a-hole for one very important thing. You say you convinced your wife to move in with mother-in-law? WTF. I thought I was doing the right thing by helping family. My wife was just worried about changing our daughter's school districts. It turned out not to be so bad, but it was a legitimate concern at the time. No, not the a-hole. It was the best thing you could have done for your family. Yes, mother-in-law was using you to subsidize everyone else's living expenses. And your wife is understandably upset realizing this. Send back the invoice, indicating there was no agreement or obligation for rent beyond the time you lived in the home. Also note that you are disappointed she used you to subsidize her other children, and that you would be happy to send her an invoice for the car you provided to her child. I would also address how severely hurt her daughter is by realizing that mother-in-law was only using her financially. Unfortunately, your wife's whole family sucks. They were all using you for money. I would go low to no contact with them and have your wife focus on building a network of friends around your immediate family. Best wishes that she recovers from her family's financial abuse, and that you both learn to say no when it comes to anything financial.